Call the Finance Committee meeting to order. And I don't know. Oh, yes, Josh told me he was not going to be here this evening. So, do we not have a? Should be the roll. Yeah,
Julie, do
that's okay.
we don't have a roll sheet.
I don't have a roll sheet, but that's all right. We have all present except Member Barnett. So we have a quorum. We can go ahead and proceed. I need a motion to approve the meeting minutes for February 10th, which was our special meeting regarding the insurance, and then our regular meeting of March 2nd. May I have a motion? I have a motion by Vice Chair Thompson. I was going to say Vice Chair Gerald Thompson, and a second. And a second by Layman. I'm so sorry, Gerald. Oh, the brain just wasn't there. Um, And so, does anybody have any additions or corrections to those meeting minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of those meeting minutes being approved, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Very good, motion passes. Do we have any appearances by the public or employees by the county?
Chairman Metzger, we do not.
Very good. We'll proceed with departmental matters, and that's 5A, and that would be, oh, excuse me, I have to do number 4 with Patrick Hoban, and he is with the Economic Development Council. So I'm so sorry, I jumped right over you. I'm just like jumping all over the place. Welcome. I'm glad to have you.
Right. There we go. Everybody hear me okay? Great. All right. Good to see everybody again without a mask. You probably noticed I grew a COVID beard and I decided to keep it. Wife and kids like it and I don't have to shave every day, so it works. So today I thought I'd give you almost a preview of what we're going to do for our Be In by the Numbers, which is at the end of the month. And really, I want to do an update on where we're at with our forgivable loans that you guys used to call the McLean County Targeted Development Loan Program, which was really geared at startups. So in the beginning, when I started, we had this program, which was for startups that you guys allocated $600,000 to. It wasn't heavily utilized, and then COVID happened, and so you guys pivoted and converted that into recovery loans. We ended up doing 19 of those recovery loans for a total of $205,000. We only had one of those companies actually just void the check, never even cashed it. They went out of business, moved to St. Louis. So that brought us actually down to 195,000. We did with your 600,000 though get some private dollars as well. So we had $15,000 donated for private business to add on to that. We lent out their money first, leaving us with, well, actually after that, you guys did a program, I believe that went through for $40,000 for hotels. So those all combined leave us with about $380,000 left in that funding. We've had one inquiry since then, and that's been over a year ago for someone else looking for one of these recovery loans. I think they're doing fine. So one of the questions I'd have to you is, what do you guys want to do with these funds? Probably looking for best practices, maybe going back to entrepreneurship. I'm not sure. But you guys still have $380,000. We can pivot, we can do more research. If you guys have seen other programs or if you've heard from businesses on what their needs are, I do know entrepreneurship is an area that could be improved in our community. We have a great SBDC that will help you out with a business plan, but then after that, we don't have the same resources that Champaign or Peoria currently have in place. It's also something that's at the very bottom of our strategic plan, and we paused because some of you were involved in our branding initiative, which just launched as well. So we wanted to pause entrepreneurship until we got branding out of the way, and then maybe bring it back up towards the end of the year. So I guess I'd put it back to you guys when it comes to that $380,000 that you had allocated in the original program. Um, any thoughts or research or direction you'd like to send us to come back with ideas to utilize those funds?
Member Erickson, and then we'll go with Member Friedrich. Member Erickson.
I'm going first. We've been trying to give this money away for years. Um, I remember when we were debating this money, there were probably 6 different people sitting at this table, but there was a finance committee. I was trying to decide what to do with that money. Um, do you have any suggestions that you would care to make to us as to what you think we ought to do with it?
Probably going back, which I know it's back where we started, but I think one of the challenges when it was originally formatted, whenever we had pitched it to startups, the idea originally was they had to turn over their books to the public. In this format, they don't have to do that now. So I think if we flipped it back over to a startup fund, we might get more takers compared to before. Because we talked to people, if they were interested, they're like, okay, we have to turn over your business plan and all your financials, personal and business-wise, that can be FOIA'd. And they're like, oh, never mind. It's not worth the loophole. So I think if we did switch it back to startups, this would be a good time, especially with summer coming along. We might get some more action for startups.
Yeah, one of the problems we always had was it seemed like nobody ever knew about it. It just always sat there and it's like, we got this money sitting here and it's like no one, oh, you got money sitting there. Yeah, and we just watch it every year and hope that something happens with it. So I mean, if we're gonna do something like that, I hope that we do a better job at advertising to get it out there because honestly, I mean, I proposed giving it back to the taxpayers a few years ago and I lost on that. So if we're not gonna do that, then it's better than just having it sitting there. It ought to be doing something. So, I mean, just, that's all it's done. It sat there for years. I mean, it's just sat there, so, I hope we find something to do with it. But I think a good way to approach it would be if you would give us some suggestions and then we can start working from there. I mean, I think that would be the best way to do it. So, thanks.
Member Friedrich.
Yeah, Pat, I was just wondered, is it your opinion that, I'm kind of piggyback, my question was similar to Chuck, that it's getting outside in the entire county, that we're marketing this to Leroy and Danvers, this is going out?
The recovery funds themselves, I believe that 32% of them were actually for rural businesses. So we did push it out in the beginning. 47% were women or minority businesses too. So we tracked it and we did push it. Since then, though, we've recently hired a community marketing manager, and her full-time role is just pushing out the story of our area. Before, it was juggled between a couple of us in-house. I'm good at sales and closing, but as far as marketing, we got a full-time marketing person now to push it out. And we're also in the process of getting an ISU fellow that will partner with our business retention manager on tackling all the rural areas. I actually had a meeting with Shanoa last week. So yeah, we're trying to get out more and out in the areas to make sure that we're taking care of some of the blighted buildings and vacant buildings in their downtowns too, because those are much harder sell than some of the other green grass that we have now. So we are expanding our reach. We're up to a staff of 5. It's the largest staff I've had. So yeah, we're definitely expanding our capacity.
Very good, thank you.
Member Lehman.
So one of the things that I've heard from at least businesses in my area is still the main concern with staffing, right? And not being able to staff their businesses to be competitive. I'm just curious, knowing that we have this, it may or may not be an appropriate solution, but have you heard of any other regions or like that are able to get a leg up on staffing, specifically like for the service industry and the like?
So we have been studying different workforce programs or incentives that other communities are doing because one of our tasks in the plan was workforce attraction. So we had a big campaign. We were going to go out and try to get more people to move here, ready to launch, and then we ran out of homes. So it's like we can incentivize them all day. There's still nowhere to live. So now we're in the process of doing a housing study to get some diversity in housing. But yeah, you're right. Workforce number, I was talking to a couple people before coming in. Number one concern right now, Rivian just hit 5,000 employees and they were supposed to be at 500. So we've grown really fast. We're really relying now on our outside communities outside of McLean County to provide us workers, and they're coming from 60 miles out now. But until we can get some more housing, I'm afraid that we can create all the programs we want. There's just nowhere for people to live right now. I think last time I talked to the Realtors Association, there might have been 32 homes on the market, which is insane for our area.
Remind me, and I, like Member Erickson, I've been on this committee a long time and have seen this money just sitting, not being used. And so to have any movement was a very positive. So thank you for the work that was done at an amazingly stressful time. So we did appreciate the very quick turnaround that you provided us that. Um, what I can't recall, and I believe it was all brick and mortar at
Yes.
the time. So are we seeing, if we're looking at entrepreneurship, we don't necessarily need to do brick and mortar, do we? I mean, is that something that is recommended because of public perception? I don't know. I'm
Uh,
just wondering.
For me, in the multiplier side and to help out the assessor, I would always prefer brick and mortar over anybody else. But no, there's other programs. You can even start up for food trucks to get somebody to start a new restaurant as a concept. I'd rather have brick and mortar because it's going to increase the property values for everybody here. There's a bigger return that way. There's probably a way you can prioritize brick and mortar over the non-brick and mortar. But yeah, there's definitely ways to give startup seed money or low interest loans because the interest rate is starting to go up again. That was another reason there wasn't a lot of utilization. Why go through our program when there's already low interest rates? But since those are going to be increasing, we might have more takers. But I don't even know if it's public perception. I would personally, or even professionally, rather have brick and mortar because you see the return compared to a startup, and you're not going to get the same return. But we can still do it. I've seen them both ways. My fear, if it's not brick and mortar, I've seen programs where they give dollars to a startup, they start to get successful, and then the advice from counselors is if you want to go bigger, go to Chicago or go to a major metro, then you lose them altogether. I'd rather have them invested locally.
And it is quite affordable, as you've just identified, whether it's Chinoa, Lexington, Leroy, Hayworth. It's very affordable to have businesses in those rural areas because downtown you could rent for virtually nothing. I mean, it is very inexpensive to be in those communities. So,
You just gave me an idea too. There's a program that I believe Monticello has where they almost do a Shark Tank style competition. The people come in and they pitch, and then the incentive is that the funds are used to pay for their rent in those small rural communities. And so for like 6 months, we cover the rent. They get to go in and test it out, and their little downtown on that square. That's how they've been filling those spaces is with startups. So I know their economic developer over there. I can just go steal their concept and implement it here.
I like that idea. The other piece that we can go to, and we've developed a working relationship with the Mayor's Association most recently, and that group is very uh, focused on improvement of those rural communities. And I see them, I attended a meeting just last week, I think, I can't remember. And they are always looking for new possibilities. So I guess I would be in favor of looking at that idea. Again, we had 32% of the money went to the rural areas, and that's good. But it sure would be nice if we had more than that. I do like the minority and women being at almost half.
Mhm.
So that's also a positive. So thank you for those numbers. So moving forward, do we want to instruct Mr. Hoban to bring some ideas back next month? Is that what we're looking at? I'm seeing head shakes, so is that a possibility?
Think of
Oh,
another question.
Member Vice Chair Thompson.
So you mentioned the Peoria counties and Champaign counties, their entrepreneurship programs. Do you have what kind of dollars do they have available?
Oh, wow. I'm not even sure along the lines of the incentives. I just know that they have incubators and accelerators and they have mentors after the fact. We're here, like I said, great business plan, something you can take to the bank, but we don't have the infrastructure to follow. They also have, like the U of I's partnership over there. That's huge. There's a whole space dedicated to it. That's what we're missing. We have pieces of it. I know there's some shared spaces scattered around town, but there's not one outlined ecosystem. And so that's something that we'd like to get into at some point, but workforce is too important right now.
Yeah, we've been trying to hire. I know what you're talking about. You just mentioned the partnership that they have with the U of I. I mean, obviously we have two universities here. I mean, that might, if you're looking for opportunities and ideas, business school, you know,
We've worked
internships,
with,
things
I
like
know
that.
ISU has had plans for a while and even dollars allocated from the governor to do a space like that, like an incubator. But with some of the buildings that have come and gone plans for Uptown Normal, it's a waiting in the wings. So we're still waiting with that. Yeah, having a backing from a university is huge.
Yeah, I guess, but follow up on Catherine, member Esker, if you had ideas that would, I would be interested. I think we'd all be interested in hearing them.
And we can bring back best practices.
Thank you.
Member Erickson?
Thank you. I just remember that, you know, when Chairman Seltzer and it was about 600,000 when we had in there. My God, we met for almost a year and a half trying to figure out what to do with that money. And we never came up with anything because we had 20 different opinions about what ought to happen with the money. So, you know, I mean, I just hope that if we're going to do that this round, you know, I hope we don't meet for a year and a half and come up with 20 different opinions and still end up with the same amount of money in the same pot that we did last time. So, I mean, what it really took was people had to compromise, and nobody ever got all what they wanted and what they wanted to happen with that. But, you know, if we're going to be successful, you know, you might have to be, you know, kind of assertive about something we need to do as opposed to, you know, here's an idea, hope it works. Because we'll debate it for 18 months and we still won't have a proposal. So that's what I'm saying. So thanks.
I would agree. We don't want to be taking exorbitant amount of time to get this done. So if we can come with some pretty good thoughts for next month, and then if you have those in advance, it would be very advisable to send those to the members of this committee so we can look at those and come with questions, or maybe even, depending on how early we can get it, to call you and get a little bit more insight, and then make the meeting a little more effective.
I think we can follow the same format we did when we changed over, where we had ideas going back and forth, and then I summarized them all into like 3 options, and then that was where you guys came to an agreement.
Okay. That sounds good. So that is
Just
one
one
option.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, no
Move,
pressure. Here's the best
moving
one.
on. So we have had a long discussion on that money. So proceed.
So then after the dollars, BRE, we already talked a little bit about business retention and expansion. You're right, the challenge is workforce. Everywhere we go, it's trying to figure out the workforce. We already talked about some of the things that we're doing. We had a campaign, we partnered with the Pantograph, and we targeted everyone outside of, I believe, a 45-mile radius, a donut around our area, encouraging people to actually sign up if they're interested in commuting. We have this laundry list of people that did sign up to commute, and then we end up partnering them with HR pros in whatever industry they selected. So that was fairly successful. It was expensive, so the return on investment, probably not what we'll do next time, especially with the branding initiative. But it's one that it really led us to know that we need more houses. And we don't do residential. Like our whole game is non-retail economic development. But hearing from a lot of developers that have come in from out of town and even local, they hear the testimonials. They see Timmy's tour bus picking people up from hotels. They know people are staying in hotels. We need our numbers to match the testimonials. And so that's the whole point of doing the study. We're hoping by the end of the month at our Being by the Numbers, that study will be available. and it's something that developers can take to the bank and start diversifying our housing stock. I love the Bloomington Beige concept. I live in one of them, the 3 to 5 bedroom for families. A lot of the people that are coming in don't need family homes. They need something that they can be in until they settle down. Because a lot of people that are new to town are from the East Coast, West Coast, Chicagoland, and they're techies, so they're not ready for that type of home. So I think the housing study will solve a couple of those issues as long as we can get supplies, which that's another whole thing right now when it comes to commercial development and residential development. Next on the list is
I do have a question
Oh, sure.
regarding that, and that has to do with um, the existing infrastructure internal to, as opposed to development outside.
Right.
Is there a focus at looking at our existing places, the older sections of Bloomington and Normal, or even kind of the older sections of some of these rural communities that, as opposed to new building, new development, and then having to bring that infrastructure out to those areas is quite costly.
Yes.
And in many cases for these rural communities, they don't have the resources or the monies to bring forth to get even to get it to that subdivision, let alone when the developer then has to bring it, take it within that development. So thoughts on that?
No, so the study itself will show not only like what people are willing to pay, but what type of housing that they're interested in to get away from the standard sprawl that we've been doing. Because yeah, even my neighborhood, there's a school out in the middle of nowhere, which is great for my daughter to drive when she's practicing. But no, infill is a priority. You're right. If you do a cost benefit analysis, you're better off using infrastructure that you already have. And plus, the new people that are coming in want walkable neighborhoods, walkable communities, and we want more planned developments, not to continue just add on of what we have. So no, that will be the follow up afterwards. Like this study will show, here's what everybody wants, and here's the numbers that are supporting it. After that, it'll really be up to the city, the town, the county, the smaller communities to say, here's where we're targeting to get you to go. So they're contacting us saying, we're interested in coming to your town, but your numbers don't match your testimonial. So now we're giving them numbers. If our strategic plan shifts, like this plan is up actually in August, we might have to get into residential and start focusing people and trying to incentivize certain areas of town. But we would recommend always to infill before continuing to go out just based off a cost benefit analysis.
And are you working with Mr., is it Lou? Who is doing the Mr. Lai, excuse
Oh,
me,
yes, yes, yeah.
on the transportation?
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, Ray's providing all of the data in the background that's going to these professionals that we hired out of St. Louis. Actually, Ray knew them when he was in St. Louis. So they're his recommendation.
Yeah, well, they're doing that analysis or the survey on transportation
Mhm.
needs and desires. So I'm assuming you'll have access or you will help them with that, or I'm not sure where you fall into that.
On that one, I'm not sure if I'm a part of. I was a part of the last one, the with 0 accidents by a certain amount of time for the economic impact with the workforce. But on this one, I'm not sure. I'm sure it'll come up in our next meeting, though. We meet every month. After that, because COVID restrictions are lifted, we are starting to do familiarization tours again. So we've had actually people in from Europe a week ago. I'm actually going back out to conferences again, which is good. And the beauty of what's happening in our community, when I go to the conferences now with businesses and site selectors, they know us. Where before we were either known as a home of State Farm or the home of ISU. Now they know about the chocolate, the beer nuts, and the electric vehicles. And so it's like immediately they said, you guys got a lot going on. So we're getting more interest in our community. Probably going to top, we're projected, what we did last year was over 100 projects. If we land 5 to 10 of those, that's what your real goal is. And we're online right now to a couple that are pretty close that are waiting on the standardized incentive final approval. And the standardized incentive that you guys approved was approved by the state of Illinois. And now we're working with the school districts to jump on board and participate as well. And as soon as that is done by the school districts, we know that there's one that will expand immediately. And there'll be a hefty multi-$100 million project, more investment in the area. So yeah, there's some big ones waiting. Let's see, talked about business attraction. It was just in North Carolina, standardized incentive. Good to go. We did just get back from One Voice. That was earlier this month. We took 3 projects out talking about infrastructure. One of them was Benward, Bloomington Water Reclamation District. We like to improve our streets because you can see it, your signs, you can see it. A lot of times sanitary gets ignored because it's out of sight, out of mind. Talking to the rural communities, same thing. They need sanitary for the new housing that's coming in. We're trying to work now to see if there's a way for them to actually tap into a bigger system, because if they do their own system, then they're gonna have workforce issues as well because someone has to run that plant. So it was a hefty ask. We actually went out there and asked for $220 million to upgrade our facilities, but then also to line the current systems that we have, because we have, for some of the larger projects, capacity issues. So they'll come in and they'll say, like, we have to discharge so much money for a data center because they're using all that to cool off the equipment that's in there. And because right now, some of the sewer systems leak, stormwater is getting in there. So the stormwater is being treated and that limits our capacity. So if you can line that system, stormwater doesn't get in, frees up capacity, and we've got a better shot at landing some projects. So that's one of the big asks. The other one is for the Heartland Community College Manufacturing Academy. We are the first electric vehicle and energy storage manufacturing academy out of Heartland. They want to expand that because we're expecting manufacturing to continue to grow. If you guys have seen Ferrero, the steel frames are up, $75 million investment, 50 to 100 new jobs. We want to continue making things here. I know in the past we've been known for education, healthcare, and insurance. For us, manufacturing's got the biggest multiplier because you've got a chance at bringing in suppliers, which is a lot of people we're talking to now for Rivian. So those jobs lead to more jobs. There's a bigger ripple effect for manufacturing. So we're really hoping that we can continue to expand the Manufacturing Academy out of Heartland, because there's a lot of low-hanging fruit of former bartenders like myself that if they get the right type of training, they can upskill and get into a higher paying job. So we're really happy to support that one. And then the last one is out at the airport. You probably noticed some work's being done to move a pipeline that was at the end of Airport Road. The idea is to continue Airport Road out to the FedEx facility, so the FedEx trucks stop using the regular road that goes in for the passengers. And the idea is that that whole area will free up for more distribution in that sector, similar to FedEx, specifically in cold storage. We think we've got potential to do cold storage here, not only for pharmaceuticals, but also for flowers and then groceries, because more people are ordering on their phone. That could be a great potential, and we're working with some consultants to line up meetings that we can pitch cold storage to out at the airport, just because there's an opportunity, especially a lot of people don't realize it. The airport property goes all the way down to Norfolk Southern on the south side. So if there's a way to incorporate all that, you've got rail, air, and road all in one property. So we're going to try to pitch that as some of our attraction efforts, and that road will be one of the first steps in getting it. B in STEM is starting to launch back up, and that's really the readiness side. You know, we talked a little bit about what's going on at Heartland Community College for upskilling, but getting the kids interested in all the different careers that are in our area, that's what we rely on B in STEM for. For more information on that, check out binstem.org. There's multiple programs underway. Workforce attraction, we already covered. B in forward, I know whenever we first converted these funds over to a revolving, or not to a revolving, to a forgivable loan program, I'm not sure who did it, but somebody put my cell phone on a flyer and then took it to all the businesses. So my cell phone started going crazy, which was, it was good to get people interested in the program. But once that happened and we saw all the new programs coming out on grants.gov on the federal level, we decided to partner with a company that created a 1-800 number for us. So at the top of our website, bnbiz.org, there is an email, and there's also a 1-800 number that businesses can call to get assistance with any grants, federal or local. We were happy to help out with our program, but we did have some local businesses, which I do frequent, that asked me to help them out with some state programs. And I said, I'll help you with this. Don't tell anybody I did it, because then everyone else is going to ask for help too. So to respond to that, we paid some people to do loan consulting for us and grants consulting. Rural Development Fellowship, we talked about that a little bit. We did interview 3 ISU students, and a couple of them are pretty excited. So hopefully we'll get an ISU fellow this year that will help expand our reach out in the rural communities to practice economic development, get them their own community profiles and marketing packages to help fill up some of their vacant spaces, but then also market some of their land, because they're, especially in Chenoa, there's a large parcel that's right off of the highway or the interstate that they have been pretty close in landing. We want to make sure that we have everyone's land and everyone's space in our system, because if it's not in the system, then they're not a part of the game. And when it comes to those RFPs that come in. Talked about research FDI with the airports lining up. And then the big one right now is the community vision. This is going to be interesting. This is the third community I've been in that has tried to do a branding initiative. So we hired some people out of New York that has done this for 500 different communities. So they came in, they had 8 focus groups, and then we also sent out a survey, which has had over 300 responses. And now we're going out to meet with college students to find out what they think as well. They will package this up, bring it back to us and say, here's what we think your story is. It'll be a 3 strikes and you're out type deal. So we'll have revisions, but it'll give us one story and one brand that we can all sell as a community. And I'm hoping it aligns up something along the, that I don't want to say there's a little bit of something for everybody, but each neighborhood is different. Uptown is different than downtown. The east side is different than the west side. The rural communities are all different too. This community has a lot to offer. And I lived in Chicagoland. I've lived in Decatur. This is the easiest one I've had to sell. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this brand will be that we can all champion and going forward. After that, we've got our smart city initiatives. And this is one that's called the BN Innovation Alliance, which is a goal to make sure that we're using the latest and greatest technology when it comes not just to software, but the hardware as well. Our fear is that we will not have the infrastructure in place to keep up with some of the smart vehicles that are coming on the road. We already have great fiber providers in the city, but we want to make sure that we got fiber in the rural areas as well. I think COVID showed us when it came to education, when it came to healthcare and to working as well, not everybody had access. So it was hard for them to even attend school because they didn't have internet out in their areas. And I know that the feds right now have a lot of programs that can fund expanding rural internet and fiber out in rural areas. So we want to make sure we're getting those dollars as well.
Are you working on that?
Yes.
Because literally my community has no internet. They are running off of
Hotspots?
microwaves
Oh.
from Hudson Elevator and El Paso Elevator. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that is a huge problem if an organization, even a small company, is trying to come in, that you can't have things dropping all the time. So if I can ask one thing for the rural communities, work on that. Work on that. And it's not just the Carlock, it's El Paso, it's Gridley. And when you go west, even like the Westons and all of those little Anchor, Kofax, Saybrook, all of them have their challenges. So I don't know what, you probably have a little more experience with that Kofax area.
We actually are fortunate. There's a company in Saybrook that provides, it's all wireless, but we have really good service. I mean, it's not like what you get here in town, but it's certainly usable. And especially as we look to get to the rural areas, it's not going to be hardwired. I mean, you just can't afford it, right? It's going to be the wireless technologies are going to be there. And we actually do have it, and I can't complain because we had the bad stuff before, and and so it's much better. But if you're don't have access to that company, it's night and day.
Rick, I'm sitting there.
We have the same thing with the elevator bouncing off, and it's okay. It's just okay.
So I think the idea, for one, we do have somebody working on that. Casey Peterson, who is our business retention manager, also is a former fellow for ISU. But when he was in Peoria, he captured a lot of funds for all their rural communities for broadband. So when he got here, I said, we need the same thing. So yeah, he's been working with rural communities. That was one of the reasons meeting with Shanoa. But then also, he has the same contacts at the state. So they already have that relationship to try to bring some of those dollars back. So that will be a goal of ours because it's infrastructure. It leads to business, education, workforce. You check a lot of boxes by expanding internet to the rural areas. And then last but not least was entrepreneurship, which we discussed is basically on hold right now until we figure out the branding initiative. And then once that's done this summer, possibility of launching that again. I mean, that's, what? In May? Well, I think it got pushed back because we got started in February. Maybe July. Well, actually, it depends on how many times. If we like what they give us right out the gate, maybe. Yeah, I doubt it. But yeah, if there's any questions that I can answer that aren't confidential, more than happy to.
Member Erickson.
When is the next be in by the numbers?
The 22nd of this month.
22nd? All right, thanks. Sorry.
And we will, after done, we will record it and then upload it afterwards too for anybody who can't make it. All the rest of them are on our YouTube channel.
Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you very much for your time and information. We look forward to seeing you next month and hearing from you prior to that.
Sounds good. I'll go do some homework.
All right, now I think we are moving to departmental matters, and we will start with Marshall Thomas. Oh, she will be right back. Do we want to, well, our auditor is not here today. She didn't have anything. We'll go on to B, Michelle. Just so you know, they are working right now on the audit, our annual audit, and I think is June when we will likely see something from the audit.
I believe that's correct.
The only other thing is we do want, and I know she's really busy, but if we can have some a quarterly report. We just finished, obviously, the quarter, so that first quarter, sometime, reasonable time, if we could get a first quarter, that would be great.
I will.
And I know she couldn't have it today, so I'm not, certainly no expectation that it
Sure.
needed to be done. I just
She
wanted to.
checked in with me earlier today, so I will request that.
Okay,
and speak
very
to her
good.
about that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marshall. Oh, Ms. Thomas. She has, so we have 5A, 1A, and that's request. Actually, I'd like to put 1A and B together. And that is to request approval of the Animal Control Center agreement with the town of Normal and request approval of the Animal Control Warden Services agreement with the town of Normal. May I have a motion to put that on the floor? We have a motion by Member Friedrich and a second by Member Coates. And if you can go ahead and proceed and give a little bit of summary of what this is.
Thank you very much. Happy spring, everyone. So these are our annual, now 5 years, so I'm really excited about that, intergovernmental agreements with the town of Normal for our routine animal services and animal sheltering. So this is what we do for the town, and these agreements help bring us to our mission and help protect the public, and I would appreciate your consideration.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor of approving 5A, 1A, and B, say aye. Opposed? Very good, motion passes. We're going to move on to 5A, 1C, and that's request approval of an agreement with the Changing Seasons Lawn. I'm sure that should be Lawn and Landscape, Inc., and this is for I believe the summer mowing and various things. And may I have a motion for that to be Member Lehman and a second by Vice Chair Thompson? And go right ahead.
This is just our lawn care at the facility. We do have a very large lawn area that does require a lot of maintenance and upkeep and cleaning of trees and debris. And we use this area for our volunteers to walk and socialize adoptable pets. So people can come out and do meet and greets and see what kind of animal interaction they have with pets they may previously own. And it's nice to have a well-kept area for that activity. And as well, I appreciate your consideration.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the 5A1, excuse me, 5A1C, and that is the agreement for the lawn care, say aye. Opposed? Very good, the motion passes. And then we have 5A2A, and that's some monthly reports, and those are in our packet. But is there anything that you'd like to highlight?
We're ready for spring. We're getting ready to start putting out some public announcements on our indigenous wildlife that are going to start their normal activity for spring. So you'll be seeing some of those things come out on our Facebook page. Adoptions, reclaims are going really well, so we're happy about that. The facility is almost completely put back together. The construction's been completed, so we're super thankful for that. Right now, we're just coming in and decluttering all the things that are repurposing them that we don't need any longer, and then getting the facility organized and ready for 100% operations. So as soon as I know we're done date, I'll let everyone know, and then you can come out for the final tour. And I probably need a couple more weeks. We're almost there, but we got a few more things to do. We're hanging sound deadening baffles in the dog room to help with the high acoustics, so we give a little bit more rest to the dogs that are in there, and putting in the new filing cabinets and putting all the stuff back in that was destroyed from the water damage. So we're almost there, and staff is ready. So we're glad that it's getting done. We are hoping to see some activities throughout the season for adoption promotions, but we're just kind of waiting a little bit to make sure that everybody's okay with the restrictions being lifted. And then if everything looks well, we'll be planning some of those in the community. We still have adoptable cats at Tractor Supply Company in Bloomington. So if you're out and about and want to stop and see our fancy cat tower that they've graciously allowed us to place there, been instrumental in placing cats in the community, and we're very thankful. So if you have a chance to thank their manager, please do so, because it's a huge benefit to us to find another source for finding adoptable cat homes. So we're really thankful. But if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to.
Member Lehman?
They have in dogs, yes.
Yep. Shall I repeat the question? Okay, sorry. For 22 to 21, it looks like euthanasias have increased. And I was just curious if there was like a correlation with pandemic things, or if there was something that happened out there, or if there is an additional concern or supply or something that we should be able to be aware of to help out and to make sure that you and your team are supported, so
Thank
the
you.
animals out there can be healthy.
I did meet with Cassie by phone, and notified her that we had several dogs that came in from the community that were irredeemable or had been extremely sick. And after veterinarian consultation, the decision was made that they couldn't be put through the medical process with a positive outcome. And so I think the correlation right now is that we're in the beginning of our data numbers. And so we have, it looks like a higher percentage because we don't have as many animals being at the beginning of the year. We have looked at implementing, doing some things for some of our puppies that enter the facility, doing vaccination upon intake, and some of the other dogs that we can handle doing vaccinations on. So, but as I am experiencing through my observations through the community, I am seeing a higher uptick of canine distemper, and we're seeing a lot. And this is my opinion. I don't have hard data yet. We're still looking at it and communicating with Department of Natural Resources, but it appears to me that the skunk and raccoon population is being hit pretty hard right now with what appears to be distemper. Now, we don't have confirmed diagnostic testing on everything that we collect for the city or the town, and but they are all symptomatic the same way. So we're encouraging everyone in the community to make sure that you vaccinate for rabies and for the other animal viruses that are out there. We're going to be looking at the community partners real soon to see if we can schedule some community partner vaccination clinics now that the pandemic restrictions have been lifted. So those are things that are high on my radar that I want to make sure we get back out into the community and try to help offer some assistance there. But the reality is there's a lot of virus activity going on, and we all should be protecting our pets and ourselves with annual vaccines and getting them rabies vaccinated. And if the community knows that someone needs help, if you want to call the animal control facility, I will personally look into trying to find resources, try to help that individual see how we can get them vaccinated so that everyone's protected. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
but
That absolutely does. And then will you guys be posting like all this information on social media and various
I'm
other
actually
channels as well?
going to be working with Cassie pretty soon. We
Cool.
talked briefly about it, how we're creating some new public service announcements that the program has been providing for a long time, but with social media and how that has evolved, we're going to try to find some fun digital ways of getting that message out there so that everyone can see it in the social media platform, and that might answer a lot of questions that people have in the community. So, but it does take a little time to create those documents. So I'm probably going to need just a little bit of time to, I'm a perfectionist. So I got to get them all done. And then Cassie will help me get those approved. And then once we get those ready, we can email them to you so you can give them to your constituents. I'm going to laminate them so they can be put at local businesses and veterinarian offices. And then we'll also use those on any of the platforms that the county uses to communicate with the public and our community. That's my plan. So
Thank you. That sounds fantastic.
thank you.
I know that you had, at least at our church, which is on the west side, you had low cost immunizations. Is that part of what you're thinking of doing again? And
So that particular venue was hosted by Wishbone Canine Rescue, and then they invited us to come and collect the registration on behalf, and then we would approve through county administration a reduced registration rate of $1, and then we would then help assist them with some collection of the information and a little bit of animal traffic control. But at this point in time, I haven't heard that they're going to do that yet. I know they're moving to a new building. I'm still waiting to hear more details on that. So there might be a little bit of delay, or they may be using a different location to try to meet that. But the county can certainly do something on our own if that's something that the board or administration would like us to look into. But it does take a little bit of coordinating and planning and staffing, and you have to have your veterinarian, do the inoculation. There would be a purchase of the microchipping and the vials of rabies vaccines. So there would be a little bit of upfront cost, and then you'd have to figure out how we would either include that as part of our community outreach or a little bit of a reimbursement back for the service. But it just depends on what direction we think's best for the community and the program.
it just seems that we have the health department going out and giving COVID and influenza vaccines. So I don't know. It just seemed, if they can do it, I'm just wondering if that isn't. I think it was pretty successful, and so it was kind of in the neighborhood, so it was kind of nice too. People didn't feel like they had to travel a long distance to get that. So just a thought.
We can do that. I mean, we can brainstorm, come up with ideas. I can meet with administration to see what type of mechanism or route of getting those to the public that we can look into. But the thing is with the pets, it's hard when you bring, there could be 300-400 people show up and they bring all of their pets. And so then you have everybody, trying to stand in line and go through a process, which they were successful in the previous clinics, but a little stressful. But I mean, it all managed well and everybody was appreciative. And when it was done at the Community Action Center, other partners were identified where they would humbly donate dog food and some gently used pet supplies. And so those customers utilizing clinic could come through and get an inoculation, a microchip, get their discounted registration, collect some donated food and supplies. And so it was very positive, but it was a lot of work and it was very rewarding. It would just take a little bit of, you know, scheduling and figuring out what the county wants to contribute to that process. But I support anything along that line. So if you want me to figure it out, I will.
We do have monies that come in from the trust. Can that be used for that or not? No?
The trust is only for animals that are adoptable
Oh.
and that are adopted from the facility.
Got it.
Now, that doesn't mean that the community can't bring animals to us if they know that they no longer would like to own them. And then we could get them altered and vaccinated and services by the veterinarian and then place them back out to new homes. So there have been many cases where that's occurred and we've been able to help families where, you know, if they were kind of on the fence about keeping the dog anyway. And then, you know, the dog got sick or got a broken leg or accidentally got out and bumped by a car. They contact us and then they bring the animal to animal control. It's owner relinquished, becomes the property of the county. And then we immediately start the triaging services and needs assessment to figure out, is this something that could be handled by our routine veterinarian? Is it a University of Illinois consultation? So it just really depends on the extent of the injuries, but we've helped many animals in that particular circumstance. And I'm proud that our county can be a part of that process. And hopefully we can get it all together and explain it in a more detailed process, but I'm still trying to figure out all the nuances to that and how we're going to move forward with what we got now.
Well, thank you for what you've done so far. And we don't necessarily need to throw a lot on your plate, but just some thoughts. So thank
I
you.
would do it in a heartbeat. So.
Any other questions? Very good. Thank you. I think we will move on to, we've already talked about Michelle Anderson, so we'll go to 5A, 5C1A, and that is accept and place on file the treasurer's monthly financial reports. And may I have a motion, please? Vice Chair Thompson and a second by Member Lehman. And I think everybody has their copies. So welcome. We missed you last month. Glad to have you back.
Hello. Um, I am going to start off by going through the first report, summary of tax revenue. But what I want to let you know is there's 2 pages to this first report. I don't want to get into a lot of the questions until we get to the second page, as far as what's changed and why it's changed. Because when you look at the March vouchers there, you can see that we are still in a period of tremendous growth when it comes to these tax receipts. For the month of March of 2022, overall we received 1.7 million, and that was compared to 907,000 last year. I'll go into the details in a little bit. It's all part of the PPRT for the most part, and also on that sales tax. Going on down, looking at March of 22 compared to March of 21, as I said, it's 1.7 million here in 2022, 907,000 in 2021, so $806,000 growth for the month there. Year-to-date vouchers, 4,293,122 compared to 2,755,182 in 2021. So we are currently 1,537,940 above last year. And then when we look at budget, we would typically like to be about 25% into our budget right now. However, we are well above that with our vouchers receipts of 4,293,122. So we are over budget as far as our revenue goes. And I'll go into more details on that when we move into that second page. I will just briefly talk about the PPRT. PPRT, that payment there of 722,000 compared to just under 100,000 a year ago is because of tax law changes. The new tax law changes required C corps and S corps to start making estimated quarterly payments, and December was the first estimated quarterly payment that they made. So that's the reason here and during the month of March we get that big push of estimated payments there. So going on down into the shared sales tax, and our shared sales tax revenue is going to be up as well. The City of Bloomington, Town of Normal, together they have contributed 1,263,333. That's compared to just 978,115. This is based on a percentage of the revenue that they collect on that additional sales tax that they adopted. We get a percentage, so it doesn't matter whether the sales tax, even though the sales tax revenue is going up, we benefit from that in the shared sales tax fund. Fund equity is 13,633,132. Property tax revenue, we are getting ready to start working on taxes from what I hear pretty soon. The county clerk's office should be rolling to us soon. We've already got a lot of things in place because when that happens, we're going to be moving very, very, very quickly to get a bill out by the end of April, first week of May. So when I come back in here next month, our bills will be out hopefully, and we'll be collecting. Then we move on down into the motor fuel tax. County motor fuel tax. The regular motor fuel tax, you can see there, 493,000. The renewal fund, 381,000. On township, we have a regular township motor fuel tax of 411,000, and that renewal fund is giving us an additional 319,000. So county motor fuel and township motor fuel here in March through the year, we're about at 1.5 million in revenue. So okay. I'll go on to the next page, and I think that the next report is one that I haven't. I've not done this for you, but throughout 2021, I consistently brought you numbers and talked about these increases that we were seeing. And like the county administrator's office, when there are major changes going on, we reach out to our partners. So my friend at Town of Normal, Andrew Hune, and then Scott at City Bloomington, we reach out to them and we say, are you guys seeing this? Are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing? And, fortunately, they were able to pass along some information to me from the Illinois Municipal League. And the Illinois Municipal League did a very thorough write-up on exactly what is happening, because you can see in a 10-year span, during 2021, our combined revenue was $14 million. And that was over $4 million more than 2020. This is a historical jump in revenue. I've been saying that. And when our auditors present our audit for 2021, you will also hear them talk about the increases in revenue from income tax, PPRT, and sales tax, because it's significant. The county was not relying on this jump in revenue. And so, but 2021, I highlighted, I put down some things that the Illinois Municipal League passed along as far as what was changing. Why was 2021 so dramatically different? On the sales and use, I've talked about this, level the playing field. In 2021, because of the pandemic, there was so much more online sales. And level the playing field allowed us to capture sales tax revenue from those online sales that we weren't able to capture in 2020. So level the playing field. Illinois Retail Act was a huge part of the sales tax. Local growth. We have a lot of activity, a lot of economic development going on in this community, as Patrick had just highlighted. And that is also coming through in the sales tax revenue that the county is receiving. And and then, of course, you've got your consumer spending. We're on a rebound right now from the pandemic. A lot of people didn't spend as much in 2019 and 2020. And 2021 started feeling, or excuse me, 2020, but 2021 started experiencing a sense of normalcy and coming back out. And so that also contributed to it. And then you have your cannabis too, which I didn't mention. The income tax, the LGDF fund, the improving labor market, extraordinary receipts, and higher estimated tax payments. That is why the income tax came in higher. And then PPRT. PPRT is personal property replacement tax. Has experienced the highest collections since the inception of the PPRT back in 1979. Substantial growth, double in size over prior year. They also had that 156 million transferred over from the refund, the fund that they issue refunds from, and strong business receipts. The going forward, I have noted there that this is one area where there's uncertainty, and the reason why is because of what's going on right now with inflation. So this is an area that, we're just going to have to continue to watch. Um, but I wanted to present this for you. I wanted you to see a 10-year picture of exactly how much it has changed and what 2021 gave to this county. So, and then moving on down, when we're talking about property taxes, in the next week or so, the property tax extension will roll into my office. Um, and at that point in time, we'll start working with it. And what I wanted to do is show you McLean County's tax rate. I've brought this to you before. McLean County has always been incredibly conservative when it comes to the property taxes levied on property owners. And the property tax, this is the rate per $100 of EAV. You can see that when I've got it laid out there going out to 5 decimals because those are the tax rates that I work with and what Kathy works with. But when you look and you just round this up, I mean, we have been within a penny or two for the last 10 years. And I would be curious to know, I don't have the time, but I really would be curious to know how many districts out of the 200 plus we have stayed flat, basically, for the last 10 years with everything else going on. So McLean County government has done an outstanding job in keeping the property tax rate down for residents. And right now, the estimated rate for 2021 payable 22 is on there. It's not final until it comes through my door and the county clerk signs off on that final extension. But again, we are staying right in line, 0.91404, and we're staying at basically 91 cents per $100 of EAV. So this is really something that you need to keep in mind and when you go out and talk to your constituents. The next report is the monthly investment report. And the only thing that I really have on this report to be excited about is that the Illinois funds rate is finally at 0.4. We have been, working with historically low rates. And the Fed moved the Fed rate back in the month of March. And so that quarter point is going to give us more return on our investment. So that Illinois funds rate is currently at 0.4. You can see that most of the local banks are still sitting at 0.05 or 0.08. They're not moving just yet. But we'll continue to watch it, and we are expecting more rate changes throughout 2022. according to the Fed. And that will definitely allow us to start investing more money in CDs. I mean, CDs right now are, last time I went out and checked, we actually pulled a CD because there was just no sense in reinvesting it for a period of 12 months, knowing that these rate changes are on the horizon. So overall, across all funds, 97,209,000. The ARPA fund, that fund has 13.4 million in it still at this point in time. And the second trunk is supposed to be available to the county in a few months. So the next report is the Blue Cross Blue Shield report. I didn't bring a report to you during the month of February because it wasn't available yet. And we found out more information as to why that was, or I guess it was back in the beginning of March. Blue Cross Blue Shield moved us to a different platform as far as our claims processing. And so that caused a delay in some of our claims being processed during the month of February. So more were processed during the month of March. That's what you see up there in the top right-hand corner. 2022, our February claims were 169,000. March was 736,000. I wanted to explain there wasn't anything significant that changed except for just the processing there. When you look at our overall claim expenses on our self-insured plan, here in 2022, we have 1.5 million, 1,585,000 compared to 1,329,000 in 2021. Keep in mind, in 2021, we got a $200,000 credit. So when you line those up, we're very, very much in line with where we were a year ago. The second, the middle section down there, there's been some changes. The first three columns are actual RX and med claim costs, and then the rest of this big long bar here is all administrative. and it's interesting to look at these statements when they come through on the portal, because for every charge, it seems like we get a credit, and every credit they turn around and they give us a new charge. So it's I don't know, but anyway, so they've added a new category on number 13. It's a medical rebate. It's going to benefit us. They also, one thing I want to show you is in column 8. Um, column 6 is what we pay. It's a fee we pay each month for stop loss, and it's basically an insurance policy to protect our plan from claims that go above and beyond. And column 8 is the actual stop loss adjustment. If we didn't have that stop loss fee and that stop loss policy in place, we would be paying out right now, we would have paid out 337,000 more in claims. So here during the first quarter, it has especially helped the county keep its expenses low. So, okay. Somebody actually has my marks on this page. You do okay. No, I'm good. I'm good. I knew I had it all in my mind, but I accidentally gave that to you. So, but anyway, moving on to the final report is a summary on the nursing home. You know, the nursing home, there's a lot to be said, but this report just gives you, the finance committee, a snapshot of the financial condition at the nursing home. The nursing home reports to another committee, but it's very important that the finance committee also get information. Um, the um, the month of February, their revenue across their major revenue sources was 534,280. Um, their their expenses, February, January, or excuse me, January, February, March, there are still expenses that have not been accrued yet to the general ledger. So when you see the number where revenue is significantly higher than expenses, that's because these accruals have not hit the general ledger yet. They probably will be in the next month or so. One of the biggest ones is their insurance. So just keep that in mind. The year-to-date accumulated revenue, 1,223,000. Year-to-date accumulated expense and transfers out would be 740,603. Looks like they've got a positive number right now, 477,792. But like I said, keep in mind there are expenses that have not hit the general ledger as of yet. The outstanding AR, we began the year at 3,546,000. We are currently at 3,612,953. Cash, we started the year at 466,894. We're currently at 481,569. So cash really hasn't changed a lot there. That's really, really good. Um, the the fund equity, we started the year with 3,552,233, and we are now here at the end of February at 4,030,026. Again, that's because the revenue is coming in higher right now than the expenses. So, okay. And in regards to the audit, I actually we've been going through audit field work for the last 2 weeks. We had our audit, a lot of auditors and requests going through our office today. Um, I I can tell you that as of right now, the 1231 numbers, they are still changing, and that's probably why you don't have a financial report yet from the auditor, because at this point in time, she's not going to give you the summary for the period ending 1231. That's going to be your CAFR. And that's not going to come through until the audit is finalized and presented by the external auditor, Clifton Larson Allen, during June. And then off of that is how you build in your quarter for March. So just wanted to just briefly explain why you don't have numbers at this point in time for 2022. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We need to vote to C1A. So all in favor of accepting these financials, say aye. Oppose? Very good. We'll accept those, put those on file. Thank you for all your work. Good luck as you move into the tax season.
Thank you. Yeah.
We are going to move on to Kathy Michael, and that is 5D1A, and that's request approval of a license agreement with Eastland Mall LLC and CBL and Associates Management Team. And those are found on page 25 and 39. And may I have a motion to put that on the floor? We have a motion from Member Friedrich and a second from Member Coates. And go right ahead and proceed.
Does anyone have any questions? This is the usual, not usual, I should say, but we're always looking for new or better or early voting sites. And this has been a perfect location at the mall. Unfortunately for the mall, they have a lot of space, but good for us. And especially working with BEC, we can combine there. And so it's in Kohl's, very briefly. I know you guys have had a long meeting. When you walk in Kohl's, and then you walk like you're going through the mall, that big place where the kids had the jumping things and all that, and it's huge. And so it's just perfect for both of us to be there and have a lot more space where we can have more judges and more equipment. And because I think we're going to have a good turnout from here on out, and hopefully it'll help with lines and I thought they gave us a reasonable price. It's within what we had budgeted for in 2022. So does anyone have any questions?
Seeing no questions, may I have all in favor of accepting the lease agreements, say aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. And then there are monthly reports, D1, or excuse me, D2A. And those are your monthly reports for all the work that is being done by your staff. So does anybody have any questions for that? All right, very good. Seeing none, I know I did talk to Member Coates and I told him that if he had any questions, because it's a little overwhelming that you you and the other department heads would be more than happy to meet with him. So he is aware of that, and so hopefully, if he needs help, he'll reach out. Certainly, the administration and I would also help, but usually the department heads are the best resource. So thank you very much. We're moving on then to 5E1A, and that is our Administrator Cassie Taylor. And she's requesting approval for a contract with Evergreen Solutions LLC to conduct the compensation survey or study and analysis for our non-union employees. So may I have a motion to put that on the floor? I have a motion by Vice Chair Thompson and a second by Member Lehman. And Ms. Taylor.
Yes, I present this to you tonight. This is the much-awaited compensation study that we've been talking about for several months. We've selected Evergreen Solutions LLC. They have experience working with over 800 government entities in similar projects to the type that we requested in our RFP. And most importantly, they could meet our deadline of the end of summer so that we could incorporate any of these findings and pull those into our 2023 budget. So I request approval.
Questions? Seeing no questions, I think there's been a lot of support from this committee for you. And so we will vote. All in favor of approving that, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Very good. We're going to move on to E1B, and that's requested approval of a position reclassification for the Information Technology Department, and that is found on page 53 through 54. Obviously, we need a compensation program, so as our next few things are running in that direction. So may I have a motion to put that on the floor? A motion by Member Friedrich, a second by Member Coates. And you want to go ahead and proceed?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Metzger. As you'll be more than aware from items B, C, and D, we have a need for a salary and compensation study. This specific request for a reclassification in the Information Technologies Department is related to market trends, specifically within the IT department. It's very difficult to find a programmer. It's even more difficult to find a programmer at the rates that we have indicated for that position, which have not been elevated more than a few percentage points in over 10 years. And so this request is actually to not only change the salary range, but also change the position classification. This is a reclassification request to include more, what's the word I'm looking
Range.
for? A larger range, but more responsibilities. That's the word I was looking for, was more responsibilities. It changed the job description to update that job description to current job duties for programmers, which included the technology that has, it changes all the time actually. So I can't keep up with it, but programmers can. And so we have done a little bit of our own market research with like counties that would be considered our comp counties. And so we're asking for a reclassification to have a programmer, senior programmer, I guess is what he's calling it, position. So that is the request.
Questions? We have Member Lehman.
So we've got a salary study coming so close, right? We'll hopefully have results by the end of summer to be able to make actions. The requests that we've got coming before to reclassify and to adjust pay and like that, these things are absolutely necessary for the work that we have at this time, or are these more of a nice to have that would be advantageous to wait until after a salary study to where we can employ that information and make sure that we don't have to, you know, not walk anything back because, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have many more requests for reclassifications or offering salary outside of the ranges than we bring to committee. And so we only bring to you those that have potentially been sitting open for months or when they're starting to impact operations for the county. And so we do try to weed out those like to haves and those wants as opposed to those needs. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is we are incorporating all of this data, the salary ranges that have been elevated into that salary study. So that will be data that is analyzed by Evergreen Solutions. And so some of the positions I expect they will show have had increases in recent years, and that will be obviously incorporated into that study against those that haven't had any increases. So I think that the work we're doing now will be encapsulated in their final report.
Awesome. Thank you for the context
Mhm.
and for all the work that you've done and are doing to get this information out there.
Any other questions? And as you can see, this is specifically for our property tax system, so it is unique to county or taxing bodies as opposed to a state farm or an ISU. So,
Mhm.
all right, all in favor of the request for approval of reclassification for the IT department, say aye. Opposed? Very good. Motion passes. We are moving on to E1C, and that's request approval of a resolution amending the fiscal year 2022 funded full-time equivalent position in the health department. So that's on page 55 and 56. And this is to add a resource to that area, I believe, right?
Mhm. So this one is a little unique because it's related to a COVID crisis grant.
Okay.
And so this one,
So we've
this
got
one
money
has less,
coming in.
yeah, we have,
Very good.
this is
Okay,
not
this-
impactful to our budget.
This is not uncommon that we get grant money and then we have to add, we don't have to add, but in order
Mhm.
to utilize a grant, we have to have resources. So that is what this one is about. So may I have a motion to approve? And we have Vice Chairman Thompson and a second member Lehman. And can we go ahead and provide a little more insight?
Sure. So this is a request that comes from Jessica McKnight, and what she's doing is looking at the funding that she has received for the Personal Health Services Program, and it's for the crisis grant, and she's using interns. So she's got, she wants to add another 0.30 FTE in the intern position classification for 2 public health interns. I thought this was a unique way to approach this. Not only does it help with the needs of this grant, but it also supports our local universities in providing internships. So that is what she's requesting.
Questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the E1C, say aye. Opposed? Very good, motion passes. And we are going to E1D, and that's request approval of a nursing home request to increase the starting wage for licensed practical nurses, and that's found on page 57. May I have a motion, please? Motion by Member Coates and a second by Member Vice Chair Thompson. And please, Ms. Taylor.
So it seems like the nursing community is ever changing, and every step that we take to become flush with market trends and up our salaries to attract good talent, our partners in the private sector do the same. And so it's still just very difficult to find nursing staff. I think the pandemic exacerbated that situation, especially for this local community. And so The request that we have here is to, um, uh, it's a review of the hourly rate that we pay for our LPNs, and it is to increase that so that we can be competitive in attracting talent to our local facility. The good news for this is, in order to operate our nursing home, we have to have staff. And so we have been paying for those instead through agency LPNs. And so by making this move, we believe that we can attract local LPNs to our facility, and that would create a savings because our agency staffing would be reduced. He's estimated that for each agency LPN that we have versus a reclassified LPN to this rate, there is an estimated annual savings of $94,000 for each LPN hired. And so this is a reclassification for all LPNs at the nursing home facility.
Are there any questions? We have a question from Vice Chair Thompson.
How many do we have total?
Total hired right now are 4. I think we've budgeted for 11.
Wow.
Mhm.
Anyone else? My only question, and since we only have 4, I think the answer is no. You don't have concerns of compression?
No.
Thank you. All in favor of the E1D, and that's a nursing home request to increase the salary starting wage for LPN, say aye. Opposed? Very good. Motion passes. We do have a closed session coming up, but instead of moving straight to there, what I would like to do is to go ahead and take care of these transfers and also bills to be paid. So bills to be paid are I do have a note from our auditor that she has reviewed and certified that they comply to the McLean County adopted ordinances, resolutions, and policies. And so we have a total of $745,912.34. May I have a motion to pay the bills? Member Lehman and a second by Member Friedrich. All in favor? Very good. Motion passes. We do have 2 transfers. We have a transfer for animal control, and that is to move monies from schooling and conferences, $600, to operating and office supplies. And may I have a motion to accept the transfer? Have a motion by Vice Chair Thompson, a second by Member Lehman. All in favor? Very good. Motion passes. Moving on to Fund 0135, and that is tort judgment, and they would like to transfer money from compensation claim of $5,000 into transfer to other funds. And that would be obviously $5,000. And does anybody have any questions? See, may I have a motion to put it on the floor? I asked for that after the fact. Member Thompson and a second by Member Friedrich. Questions? No questions, so we will, all in favor? Opposed? Very good, motion passes. So that moves us on to closed session. And so we have, we're doing both, so I have to read